we're going to look at the specific events around the temple. Let's begin with this particular slide. As you can see, it's set up for our timeline, and we're going to have all of these things that are on the top appear on the timeline as we go through our study. But look at where we begin. We begin at the year 538 BC or BCE. Now, what we have there is King Cyrus. King Cyrus is going to allow the Jews to return to Jerusalem. But take a look at our next slide. In 515, we have the rebuilding of the temple. Now that is allowed to take place because Ezra and Nehemiah return to Jerusalem because King Cyrus allows them to do such. That is found in the book of Ezra, and you can find it in chapter 1, verse 1 and verse 2, and you can study it out from there. But what is interesting is from that rebuilding, you have a repopulation of the Jewish people down into Jerusalem and in the Judah area, and lots of things take place. Now the next major thing we want to look at is what's called the dedication. Take a look at this next slide. The dedication takes place around 160 BC, and that is because of the Maccabees, and they're standing up against Antiochus Epiphanes. Now, it's important when you see all these things that you can understand that the Jews are trying to regain not just the rebuilding of their temple, but being able to worship at that temple when they were told they couldn't by the Greeks. So this becomes very important, and we have the dedication. Now, what's important about the dedication is that in the Gospel of John, chapter 10, verse 22, you find that it was called the Feast of Dedication. This is Hanukkah. This is also called the Festival of Lights, and it's recorded in the book of Maccabees. Now, what's interesting is when you study this, this is a Greek translation and an English, not the Greek translation, the Greek and an English translation of the Septuagint. This is the Greek scriptures of the Old Testament, and in this you have the book of the Maccabees, and it records the events that give us the dedication as it's recorded in Scripture, and that becomes very important. Now, what's interesting to me is when you go out and you study out the Scriptures and you study the Bibles and their movement through history, the Protestant Bibles actually continue to record the Maccabees. Here is a facsimile of the Geneva Bible, and it's a 1560 edition, which is hundreds of years old at this point, and you'll find the book of Maccabees in this Protestant Bible. Now, a lot of people look at the King James and wonder what's in that. Well, this is a facsimile of the King James 1611, and it also has the Maccabees in it. But if you open up to a modern Bible, a modern King James, or a New King James, or the NIV, or the English Standard Version, or anything relatively new, you're not going to have the book of Maccabees. However, I do have this here, this Bible here. This is the New Jerusalem Bible. This is a Roman Catholic Bible, and it has the book of Maccabees in it. The only thing I want to show with this is that the Maccabees is a book that has come down through history and records for us the history behind why we have the Feast of Dedication, which is mentioned in the Gospel of John, chapter 10, verse 22. So let's look at our next thing on our timeline. It's 70 AD, or 70 Common Era 70. It is the destruction of the temple. It's well known. Rome comes in there and obliterates the temple. And Jesus is speaking about this in the Gospels and talking about no stone will be left on top of each other. This is a very important part. Jesus foretells this or prophesies that it's going to happen. And so we have the destruction of the temple. So we have these major events. So take a look at our next slide. In 538, you have Cyrus allowing the Jews to return. You have the rebuilding. Then you have the dedication. And then you have the destruction. But what's missing on this is or what we've put on there, is the founding of the city of Alexandria. And we'll put it on there with the temple because this becomes very, very important. Because what we have is we have the beginnings of how the Greek culture is going to influence all of Jerusalem. And the founding of Alexandria is going to help give us the Greek scriptures, which we call the Septuagint. We're going to talk about all these things as we go through our series.